Right now, though, joining me in the studio is Harold Hillman, Executive Coach, Managing Director of Sigmoid Curve Consulting Group. Good morning to you, Harold.
Always a pleasure to be here with you, Mel.
Always a pleasure having you in the studio as well. However, I must say, we had Tanya Unkovic in last week, and she brought me snacks.
Oh, did she?
You brought me. It's all right. You brought me bagels the week before.
That's right.
Not that I'm saying you need to bring me snacks, but I had a nice date loaf last week.
All right, I have to top that next week.
Hey, now, we're going to talk today about what if you don't like your manager? What do you need to be thinking about before you pull the plug?
Yeah, so the relationship with your manager is still one of the top reasons why a person chooses to stay or decides to leave the company. And so it's an important relationship. The manager shapes a day-to-day experience with the company, what I call essentially the nuts and bolts of the relationship. And that's one of the reasons why there's been so much investment in leadership development over the past 2 decades, because organizations, companies, businesses are realizing that if managers and leaders don't have their act together, it's going to manifest itself in terms of people departing.
So what are some of those signs then, those telltale signs that the relationship's starting to go south?
It's largely intuitive. It's a feeling you have, like
that little prickle up your back.
Yeah, that little prickle up your back. The sense that now when you both walk into the room together, you're being very careful in your conversations. You can no longer be candid. You get the sense that they're not being candid with you, and it's a feeling. It's a intuitive thing largely, but I think you know what I mean in terms of that sense that this is not going well.
A telltale sign, I reckon, is when you get to the stage where you want to put everything in writing. You want to have an email chain because you're thinking, I might just need that later on in this relationship we've got going on here. So I'm just going to put them into writing.
Look, if you get to that point, it is definitely
downhill slope.
You're heading towards that slippery slope where everything has to be in writing. But it's an important thing to focus on, and for people who believe, if it has not gotten to that slippery slope, then there are some things that I think that you should ask yourself in terms of can we reverse the way this is going?
So what are those things?
Well, one of them is, are you being objective about your manager? And that is, you know how it is when you put if you have a negative experience with someone, you are likely to put them in a frame. I call it a picture frame with a lock on it, and that lock says negative. Or if you have a positive experience with someone, it's called affirmation bias, and that is, if we like someone or don't like someone, we tend to select data to reinforce that. And so just be mindful that if you're having a bad experience with your boss, are you being objective? Have you locked them in a frame? Can you unlock that? Can you see them a bit differently? Or have you decided to leave, and it's important for you now to reinforce that decision by locking them in a negative frame? So be objective, let them out of that, and try to be reasonable.
It's also like holding a grudge against something that they might have done at one stage, and you decide that they're mean or you don't like them because they've done this one thing. You have to let that go.
That's exactly right.
And build the relationship back.
That's exactly right. The second question you should really ask yourself is, are you a part of the dynamic? And of course, if that's the case, when it comes to the dynamic, I'm talking about the energy between two people. And so you have to play a role in that. And if it is a negative spiral, how are you contributing to that? Is there a way for you to maybe reshape or reconfigure the relationship to the point where it probably can get back up on a bit of an even track around that? The third question is, what are you really frustrated about? What do you need more of? What do you need less of? If you're in a new role or have just been given a big challenge to solve, maybe you need more coaching from your manager. Maybe your manager is a little bit too hands-off. Maybe your manager is a bit too hands-on in terms of allowing you to perform at your best. And so it is a matter of, even though it is your manager, you do have the opportunity to give that person some feedback as well.
So think about what you want and need and actually have those conversations with your manager.
That's right. If you, it's one of those situations, even for people who like a bit more affirmation. Some people really thrive on positive feedback.
It's like your love language, isn't it? Your work love language.
It is, but it's like some people really do thrive on positive feedback, but they don't get a lot of it from their manager. So you might want to drop in on your manager every now and then to just say, like, hey, how am I, how's it going? Anything that I'm doing well, anything that you'd like me to do differently, that type of thing in terms of a calibration.
I think everybody thrives on positive feedback. I mean, there's no one who's going to say, oh, no, don't give me that. Don't give me that talk about I'm doing my job well, because I don't want to hear that. Everyone thrives on it, don't they?
It's a human need.
Yeah.
Dr. Maslow, back in 1945, his famous hierarchy of needs, and one of all humans have the need for to belong and to esteem, in terms of feeling like they're making a difference. And if you're not getting that from your manager, it might be worth dropping in to just basically say, hey, can you give me some perspective on...
Am I doing this job right?
Am I doing this job right? I'm hearing a lot about what's going wrong, but can you tell me a little bit about what's going right? Because that's where I want to put my foot on the accelerator, not on the brake, but on the accelerator.
So what else do we need to be thinking about?
Well, it is that notion of have you really tried to talk about it? If you feel strongly about something that is bothering you, then take the first step. Sometimes it may be or feel a bit intimidating to walk into your boss's office and to say, hey, can we have a conversation about our connection and how we can make that tighter? Very often that it will make a huge difference. And to be specific, again, about what will make a difference for you and why that really matters.
I guess part of the time, your boss might not even know if there's an issue.
That's exactly right. We are what bosses don't sometimes realize is the breadth of their shadow. We call it the leadership shadow. And that is when someone of higher rank walks in the room, typically people will pull themselves inward. And that is not willing to, very careful, cautious about what they're willing to say. And so managers, leaders, should really go out of their way to put people at ease to the point where they can have a comfortable conversation.
Good stuff. Harold, as always, you are enlightening. Thank you so much for your time, Harold Hillman. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Stay with us after 11. We are back with the political panel right here on the Sunday Cafe.